Good morning for people in Europe and good evening or good afternoon for people in Vietnam. So welcome to the Founders Talk number three. Today we're going to have Mr. Tom Holgersson from Expats in Ho Chi Minh City. Just to disclose a bit of information about our guest today, I had the chance to meet Tom more than 5 years ago when I was in Vietnam, and then this is when I started WisePass. So it was really in the early days, and I'm really happy that they could actually see me building this company and actually show see the evolution over time. But today is not really about me. It's about expats in Ho Chi Minh City, and we're going to discover what this Facebook group is all about, how it started, what kind of challenges are actually maybe like some great stories that like Tom maybe has to share. So welcome, Tom. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lamtram. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast. And I think, as you mentioned, we've known each other for quite a few years. I remember when we met the first time at the Tech School Financial Tower in Saigon, and you talked about how you were developing your business. And it was just in the beginning, but I remember you were super excited about it. And I remember also that we talked a bit about some companies that you found in Europe that would be quite interesting for your business.
Yeah, they're all good times where you are getting excited by just an idea, right? Then, well, a lot of things happen with like the evolution, building the business, hiring people, finding the market thing, fundraising. I may have like another founder stuff to myself one day.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, thank you so much for joining the this founders talk, and then I'm really happy that we could spend time together just to discuss about like the whole story about it. So maybe like without further ado, let's kickstart for the audience and talk about like what is Expat in Ho Chi Minh City and how it started. Because I actually, when you go on the website on Facebook, like I was looking at the date when you founded the group. It's like August 3rd, 2007.
Yeah.
So what were you doing there in 2007, and how did it start?
Yeah. No, so just like in a short background about myself. So I moved to Vietnam in 2007 to work for the Swedish Trade and Investment Council.
Okay.
So I'm a Swede myself. I grew up in Sweden, but I also have Vietnamese roots. So that's actually my connection to Vietnam. But I'm adopted, so my parents are like ethnic Swedes, but I always had this connection to the country. And then it was just by a coincidence that I actually sort of started working in Vietnam. When I was doing my master thesis at business school, I was doing some research in Vietnam, and I really got to know the country quite well. So I got the job.
Just a quick question. You were adopted. Okay, your parents are ethnic Swiss. That's fine. But I never knew like you were having any like Vietnamese. Like you are actually originally from Vietnam and you were adopted from there, or actually do you have like a 25%, 50% thing, or what is that?
Yeah, no, I'm more like a mix between Cambodian/Vietnamese.
Okay.
But I mean, I grew up my whole life in Sweden, so I don't know much about my past, honestly.
Okay.
More than that, I mean, the first impression I had of the country is like most foreigners. It's a crazy country, but I also saw the potential, and I always really liked Vietnam. But as I said, it could be quite difficult to understand if you're new there. That's also the reasons to why I started Expats in Ho Chi Minh City. So when I moved there in 2007, I didn't know anyone in Ho Chi Minh City or even in Vietnam. I only had like a few contacts. So I thought that, and I don't speak Vietnamese either. So it's I felt like how do I get to know people that know something about the country? So in 2007, when Facebook wasn't as big as it is today, Now I know that Vietnam is one of the top 10 countries for Facebook in the world. But back then it was like basically no one used Facebook. So that's when I
blocked as well.
Yeah, exactly. Even that. So I mean, the first meeting was just in a restaurant on Hai Ba Chung Street, pretty close to the Swedish consulate where I used to work, and we just met up with like 20 to 30 people there from around the world. Lots of people from the States, France, Singapore, a few Japanese, and also some local Vietnamese that were really interested in. I mean, mainly, I think it was learning English. So it all took off from there, and we could see clearly that from the start we had so much in common. We all new to the country. How to get a new apartment? Where can you study Vietnamese? Which are the best restaurants? I think at that time it was quite unique because there were not that many expats in Ho Chi Minh City. So it felt like you knew most of them because it was such a small community. And then I set up the Facebook group, and I didn't really think much about that. It was more like it was easier for us to communicate instead of like sending emails and calling. Everybody could find anything there.
Do you remember your first Facebook post, or like what triggered the creation of this group? Like in really the first thing, okay, we're going to create that, and then I'm going to post about this thing.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, in the beginning it was more like trying to create meetups. It was not much about information about Vietnam. It's more like, let's go to this restaurant, or this bar, or this venue to meet up.
Okay.
More than anything. And also as Facebook evolved, now you can do much more than back then. It was very basic, but now you have sort of all the tech you need. And even now I can see all the statistics of people that are joining. It's on another level. So I think that's what really mattered. And the way it was set up, we only had allowed posts in English because most of the expats, I mean, Vietnamese is super difficult to learn. And so it's an easy way for us to sort of get to know the country really well. And as it grew up or expanded, you could see there was so much to do. Because I was very surprised myself that like, wow, how come no one else has done this before? And no one really had.
I mean, like since 2007, did you manage just to learn a little bit of Vietnamese now, or not?
I think I can get around with Vietnamese, but it's pretty poor.
I mean, like it's been 13 years now, so I hope that someone how to say cảm ơn and phở. So it's pretty good. I'm not gonna ask you just to speak Vietnamese now because it's supposed to be in English anyway. So don't worry about that.
Thanks.
So I'll just go on, and then we can actually transition to the second slide, because like the origin story is really interesting. Like it's all about like meetups in the beginning, and then it's a very small community, and then that's actually what it was all about. Back then, right?
Because you're mainly facing the same challenges when you're arriving to Vietnam. It's very chaotic, and you don't know exactly who to talk to, how to get the right information. So it's all about, I mean, think about it yourself. When you move to a completely new country, you don't know the language very well, and you don't know the people. So it's all about, I mean, building your own community and your own network.
Yeah.
I mean, this is first of all, you have to build your, I mean, network on a professional level. But I mean, if you're gonna live there as well, you have to have like a private network of friends you can hang out with, because you don't only want to hang out with people you work with every day, because it's gonna be pretty boring after a while. So you can have different setups. And I mean, for me, I think what's most interesting is because I could easily connect. So even if I live there, I didn't hang out with many of the Swedes. I know a few, but for me, it was more interesting to be like an international network from people from around the world. And I think that's sort of like you have to you have to be a bit adventurous to do these things. Go somewhere you don't know people. You can't be afraid, because if you're afraid, then you really don't get to know the country. And I think this is why I still love Vietnam very much, even if it has a lot of challenges. But I mean, it's a fantastic. If you know how to navigate the city and the country, you can have the best time in your life. And for me, coming from Sweden, it's very inexpensive as well. To I mean, for small money, I can eat out every day. I can go on like small trips on the weekends. I even had my own motorbike. I have actually a Vietnamese driver's license as well. So I drove a lot around Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City. I took some weeks off just to travel with my motorbike. I went all the way from Hanoi up to Sapa on a motorbike, which most Vietnamese haven't done that. So if you get to see that part of the country, it's just amazing, and the atmosphere is also great. There's a lot of young entrepreneurs who really want to change and do things, and I think there's a lot of curiosity in Vietnam. At least when I compare with the Nordics, it's a much younger country. It's only been open since like 1986 with Doi Moi, and basically from the 1990s up until today. So that's where you see a lot of energy, whereas I would say Sweden and the North are much more conservative.
I think the Dharma started in 89, but then there's just a detail. But the question is, so I understand that there's like a true love connection with the country. And I guess like it really started from like a really specific need where you wanted to build up your community, your network, people to hang out with. Because like when I get to really like take a look at the on the Facebook group now, like what I do see is it's really turned out to be like way more than that, right? It's not really more about like asking to this, and the group is huge now, right? So it's really like asking to group members like with more than 100,000 people. Hey, do you guys all want to hang out? And there's like 70,000 people that may actually say yes. It would be great though, like 70,000 people would say yes, but I see more like there's like people asking for recommendation, what's going on and what do you think and where should I go, opinions about some very specific issues or stuff like that. Or sometimes also I can see like people just having fun by just posting some jokes and just wanna have a good time or dramas. I'm sure you have a lot to handle that. So did you foresee that people would just use it for themselves, I guess, and instead of just group meetups?
No, but I thought a lot about that. But I mean, we try to be. The group is much more curated now, so it's more managed than I think most other Facebook groups, because I think there's a lot of people who are like only interested in sort of promoting themselves, and also trying to create a lot of drama. And of course, sometimes it's fun to follow these things, but we really try to avoid that because it doesn't kind of work out really well. You know, it could be, for example, there's been a lot of examples when a couple broke up, for example, and then the woman or the man accuses the one of doing something really bad and puts everything on the group. So why should 127 people know about that? And it's continued, and it's very difficult to prove who did what, and it's not sort of the right way. And also, again, this is an expat community, so what do we expat have to do with a personal relationship between two people? So we see a lot of that, and also sometimes people get, disappointed with going to a restaurant or hotel, and it happens to me too. But then you always have to be very careful because both sides need to have the same chance of explaining. So we tried that a few times, but it never worked out well. So we just tried to not go that way. But of course, there are things that has happened in Vietnam that are, of course, really difficult to know. And of course, there are some really bad people in Vietnam as well, just like any other country. But there has been a lot of drama. But now we're trying more sort of like to curate and to manage the group. Like, so if people ask for something, we can be very specific. Say that you need help with housing. If you're an expat, we can say a person going there with their family. There could be a few districts that are easier for an expat to live in because, basically it's more English spoken, and also it's easier if they have kids. The schools are nearby. So a lot of these things that sort of like making the life seamless for an expat. But we cover so many different topics. It could be travel, it could be insurance, it could be how do you move to Vietnam with pets, for example. So a lot of these questions have been answered, and the community, we cover most of Vietnam, so we know exactly who they should talk to. So that's why it works really well. Because if you don't know the right people in Vietnam, it's extremely difficult to navigate the landscape, even for myself. I mean, I know how it is. I have 10 years experience of Vietnam. So that's why it's extremely useful to see. But we get a lot of questions, and another big part is also there's a lot of English teachers that wants to work in Vietnam. It's good for Vietnam. It's good for us, the community. We can really be helpful, and it's good for expats moving to Vietnam because they can't find this information. Where should I work? Which schools are the best? So there's just in every vertical there's so much to do. So it's there's no limit really. It's just like trying to manage everything. It's quite takes a lot of time.
Because it seems like there are more and more like questions answered like over time, right? So I mean, like for location, yep. Who you need to reach for, let's say, if you want to bring your pets, like what's the procedure? Like if you want to actually you have a family, and then you just want to bring them like to some really specific school. Like which school should you actually put your kids in? But that kind of actually affects also like where should you live? Because I see a lot of expats living in District 2, but some people just don't want to live in District 2. They just want to have more local experience, or they just don't want to be far out in District 2, but closer to District 1.
Yeah.
Real estate, so where to rent your place, all those kind of things, right? Because I can see like the same questions. Yep.
Yeah. No, but it's also about depending on what kind of budget you have. Maybe you have a huge budget you're sent out as an expat, you have a package. That's one thing. But you might be, a person just going to Vietnam because you're really interested in the country, and then you don't have the same resources. But the thing is, that's what's great with Vietnam. You can live in Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi. You can always find something for your own budget. You can pay $5,000 a month for an apartment, but you can also pay $200. And it's still not bad. It's still good quality, but you really have to know where to go. So that's one big thing. And another big thing that came up, especially now with the COVID, it's about visa. So that's another topic. So we're working with one law firm now, VN Consultancy, and that's a great lawyer from Ho Chi Minh City. He can answer all these questions very easily because there's so many rumors, and that's also we trying also to try to protect a lot of expats. Because there's a lot of scams around visa. People think they have the real visa, and then they made the wrong mistakes with sort of like the stamps. We don't have the proper papers. So we had lots of issues when people actually thought they had a real visa. And then they were going to travel there. They couldn't because, it was fake, but it looks real. So that's why you really need to have a good network. And that's why we also, for us that runs the expat community, it's not about the money for us. We don't make any money at all today. We're just trying to build a community, and we're trying to bring on some new partners. Of course, we want it to be able to succeed with building a community. We need more resources because now it's mainly myself putting my own money to build sort of the expat website. But I have a lot of colleagues in Vietnam helping out, trying to make that possible. So it's a lot of pro bono work, and that's the key behind it. But eventually, we're gonna need to have people working full time with this to really to build sort of like a much better and a much bigger community. So that's why we have. I mean, if you go to the website, we have a lot of partners, and we're trying to do things around them. So I think that from 1 year from now, we will be able to sort of like reach a lot broader audience, not only in Vietnam, but also outside. Because the key for us, if you're an expat, if you lived in Vietnam for a couple of years, you don't need any help from the expat community. You know most things, you have the right connections. For us, it's more to bring or to help the new expats, and also to bring people that are interested in Vietnam from the outside. That's sort of like the key and the secret sauce to why we will succeed. So if we can work, I worked for embassies for many years, so I can already see now there's not a community or one single source of information we can go to. but that's what we're trying to build. So I will work very closely with, other governments around the world, but also with the Vietnamese government. And I already have good connections with them. But that's another way of doing it. And if you have that, you have everything you need to be able to succeed really well. And then it's just about spreading the word, having people to get to know it. We're very close of going there, so it's not very far actually.
I think it's pretty good because like you focused on the community building, the real needs of people. Like whenever they come to Vietnam, they don't have a network, how just to ask for things. Like so, and avoid the situation where you're gonna get scammed, of course. So definitely, like there's a need here, and there's a problem that you come and solve with your expat in Ho Chi Minh City. I guess this is why, like, when I look at the numbers, like the amount of members now is actually like more than 127,000 members, and 70,000 are active. So it's pretty good in terms of like a ratio. And then like just last month, so 1,700 posts and more than 18,000 comments.
Yeah.
So because like working from the marketing perspective, the brands and all that, we can see like a brand is always like trying just to build their own Facebook page, and then they just pay for all the likes and they just post and they're trying just to boost and they're trying to do all that. You're doing this all organically, right? Like you don't actually
you haven't paid for anything.
Yeah. So it's pretty amazing like how just focusing on the need of the community first is actually driving like all this engagement. How are you surprised about those numbers? Are you even surprised about those numbers maybe, or like
I am quite surprised actually, because also we are very thorough when we accept members. They have to ask a few questions, but we also follow them very closely. So every member that's get accepted into the community, it's been monitored by us, any of us, or my sort of colleagues in Vietnam and around the world. So we also blocked lots of members because it's just like they're just trying to ruin things, and they're not really interested in helping out. So that's why we could have grown much faster. We have like taking thousands and thousands of members of the community, because we don't need that. We don't want to be just the biggest community. We want to be the best. Quality is everything. You can have 2,000 members or like less. It's all about quality, creating value. And I've worked in business for many years, it's like everything is about quality and value. So it's not much about numbers, but of course it sounds good if you have like a couple of 100,000 members. But if you can sort of like pinpoint and help the right members to succeed, which we have, then then you really see it's extremely useful. And I think that's the key to everything. And that's why I can see it works really well. And that's why we're very thorough about, we're not just going to add on every member, because I can easily take away some functions on the Facebook group where people can just be members straight away, but in our community you can't. So you have to answer questions. If you don't answer, you're never going to be a member. And if you behave really bad, you get blocked. We remove them right within a couple of hours, even days. So it's very curated, and that's why it works. People know that.
I could see like the curation is key, because like whenever I see now like the guidelines about like all the stuff we had just to put up officially, like not talking about politics, no fake accounts, of course, this and this is like there's like dozens of rules like you have to put up, like along the years, I guess, because like the misbehavior of human beings in general has made actually has forced you just to do that, because you won't be able to know everyone. It's like more than 100,000 people now.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting with this, because with so many members, of course, some are really disappointed as well. So they get super angry and they're sending us messages and emails and why I'm not allowed to do this. I have a restaurant, and as people just trying to promote themselves, but we try to be as fair as we can. And of course, sometimes we make mistakes as well, but it's usually we can fix that. But it's just some people are really, really aggressive, I must say, really immature. It's like, I've seen a lot of bad things, but it's just like I mean, if you want to promote yourself, start your own group. It's nothing stops you. It's like, why do you have to be part of this community? So it's you get to see all the good sides and also the bad sides of people. And because the group has a lot of power now, because we're so big, and so we can really influence things if we really want to, and ruin businesses. But we are trying to be as accurate as we can, and we have no quarrels with anyone as long as they follow the guidelines. It's very easy, and a lot of the questions also with expats, they can also find them themselves very easily. You can search for what you want. A lot of people, I don't think they understand on Facebook, so you can Google, because most of the time someone already answered this question and knows it really well. And if you need help with anything else, you can easily go to the expats HCMC.com, where we have a lot of partners where they can help expats with a lot of these questions. So we're trying to build out that platform ourselves as well. So it's
because I was wondering about one thing about like self-promotion, because like one way you're going to recommend some businesses because you know they are trustworthy, they're committed, you know these people, so they're going to provide a good service, let's say relocation service or visa stuff or legal stuff or work permit, stuff like that expats going to need. And then on the other hand, like some other businesses will try also just to be recommended, right? They seem like they want to get the shortcut, like just post and actually just say, come to my place, and then so I'm going to make a lot of money, right? But nobody knows them. So it's really about like how just to figure out like which business is worth to be recommended and which business is not. So I guess like you need some critical thinking, or I don't know how it's working for you now, especially in F&B, because F&B is popping all the time, right?
Absolutely. No, but I think that the key to running this, it's like I don't need any money from the expat community, because it's like we haven't made any money. So for me, I'm quite, and all of us actually that are running and managing it, we are quite independent. So for me, it's not about money, because we're not making any money. So I got so many requests, people who wants to take me on like tours and trips and hotels, because of course they want to use the community.
They want to get something.
Yeah. So I'm very thorough, and I never do that at all, to be honest. So for me, it's try to build quality. But of course, I'm always open to meeting people and discussing to see what they do, because as I said, everybody needs to have a chance to show what they can do. So of course, there are lots of great companies in Vietnam that I never heard about. I don't even know them. But that's, again, it takes time to build these relationships. But every business is a long-term business. It's the long game that's valuable. So that's the way you have to see it. And that's why I think for us, this is going to last for 100 years. We're not looking closing down anytime soon. And as I said, we're financially completely independent. I decide, and the team, exactly what we're going to do. So that's why I think it's going to work. And I have lots of connections also from outside of Vietnam that we will be able to utilize later on. So that's why I see it will work.
Well, talking about the team, I'm interested to know like one of those things, like the challenges of like you building this community. Okay, it's a Facebook group, but as you already mentioned, like I'm sure like there are lots of challenges to talk about, like from the girlfriend the boyfriend who's not happy with the breakup, and then just post everything online on the group, and then you don't want to have anything to do with that because it's really hard just to prove. But like, what's the most difficult aspects, or maybe thing, or maybe the story that actually led you to think about how just to run and manage the Facebook group? If you can share about that.
Yeah, no, because in beginning it was like we had no rules or anything. It was just like crazy, really crazy, and quite entertaining at the time, but it was not very serious. People were fighting about all kinds of things, and it just deteriorated quickly. But you can have like, again, if you only do this, if you're only interested in like a lot of comments, you can just stop managing anything, and things will go crazy. But it won't lead to anything good, because it's just people like, I want to kill you. No, I want to kill you. Let's meet up. We're going to fight. It's like all kinds of really bad things. But a couple of years ago, we basically allowed all of that just to see what happened. Interesting for us. And of course, it drove a lot of traffic to Facebook. So Facebook I don't think they care too much about that at the time. But after that, they get so much criticism around the world. So now Facebook are managing things as well. So they take things offline. We can't do anything, even if we're admins running the group. They have a big team doing that. So sometimes posts just disappear. And sometimes members think that we deleted it, but we didn't. It was Facebook. And I don't know who did it because you can't see who did it. And it's very difficult to talk to people in Facebook. But it's much more, I think, reliable now. And I think it's a more common sense and people behave much better. What's most... Yeah, exactly. So I think what's most difficult is trying to sort of set a reasonable tone in the group. But I think we managed that quite well now in the past few years. And people know if they behave really bad, they know they're going to be blocked quite quickly, or at least we usually try to give people a warning 1 or 2 times first, because they still want to maintain as many people as possible. But still, if they behave really bad, that's when we have to get rid of them.
Seems like you need to get some online bouncers. Like I can see you have the team just to look at things and handle all the requests and see if it's acceptable or not. And if it's not, then they gotta get out, right?
Yep.
And just to
the good thing with the group as well is that we have people from around the world helping out. So even if it's night in Vietnam, there's always someone online looking at the group. So that's why it's always very clean. So when it's like 10 p.m. in Vietnam, it's only like 5 p.m. in Europe. It's always someone who can do it. Then we have people in the US helping out, and so it's well managed, and not only by us, because there's a lot of members are also really interested in helping out. So they always report things to us. They don't want the names or to be seen, but they're extremely helpful. So it's a much bigger group than just the admins and moderators. There's probably like 50 people helping out on a daily basis.
Wow. Handling thousands of hundreds of thousands of posts is going to be difficult, because if you start to get more than 10,000 posts a month, I guess it's going to be super difficult just to handle, right? So
it's madness.
Okay. Well, the purpose of Expats in Ho Chi Minh now, so it's more than 10 years. How did you feel this evolution? What did you think about the evolution of Expats in Ho Chi Minh, from this August 3rd, 2007 and today? It totally changed. The numbers changed. It's still in Ho Chi Minh City, technically it's in the title, but then community grew so much bigger. Then, did you feel that the purpose of Ho Chi Minh, this group is still the same? And then, have you kept the vision that you had when you started it? Because it was very simple in the beginning, I guess, and then you got to put all those rules because you don't know everyone and all that.
Yeah. No, that's a very good question. Excellent question. No, so I think in the beginning it was more for myself to get to know new people and trying to get an understanding of Vietnam. So have people to hang out with in the weekends and just enjoying it. But then I saw that it started to grow, and we have so much data now. So we know exactly what expats and also actually there are lots of locals as well interested in. So we thought that wow, why don't we add on some things for things you need? I mean, insurance, it's not only for expats, there's a lot of Vietnamese looking into that as well. Real estate, I mean, that's why it's interesting with Vietnam, because it's opening up more and more to foreigners, especially now with the trade war between China and the US. It gives Vietnam an edge, and they managed so extremely well with COVID as well. So all these things that even back in 2007, a lot of these things are much more relevant today, because Vietnam has developed much faster. There's much more business. There are way more expats in Vietnam than back then. As I said, back then you could basically see all these people at Nguyen Hue or anywhere around the city center of Saigon. So we can see clearly now when a lot of these bigger corporations establish themselves in Vietnam, they need the same advice, because many of these big corporations, they only give a package. You have a budget, you have this money, And then these expats have to figure out things themselves, which is impossible. And that's not only in Vietnam, that's anywhere in the world. Same in Sweden. Lots of expats working in Sweden, they have no clue of where to live or which schools are good for the kids. They have to find out themselves through other networks. So it's the same challenges everywhere, I think, in the world. So we are trying to build up new verticals like insurance, housing, and I think finance, for example. I work myself a lot in financial services and fintech. So we can see a lot of interesting things around. I had the same problems when I lived in Vietnam, sending money to Europe. I have to go for a Vietnamese bank, a settlement bank, usually in the US, then another European bank. And at that time, it took like 2 weeks, and I had to pay. I say I sent over $100. I only get out like 85. So what happened to those $15? Just fee. So now with, new technologies, blockchain, crypto, there are remittance services is worth around $650 billion every year. So if you can take part of that in trying to help expats and also with Vietnamese, trying to help them to send money back and forth from the country, that's huge business. So actually on the tech side, I work with some companies that are doing that in Vietnam as well. So I can do a lot of things that are very useful for expats, but it just happen to be in my field of expertise because I work a lot with big techs and also startups. So that's why I can do a lot of finance that could be very useful in Vietnam. And I can go on and on about this, but that's a new vertical that could be very useful for everyone. Good for the Vietnamese, good for the expats, good for business. And then it's like loans, there's huge opportunities because in Vietnam, a lot of these things are still very undeveloped, but it's coming quickly.
I see. Well, I understand like money is more regulated with the State Bank of Vietnam, like for money in, money out.
Yep.
So I guess like a lot of expats are struggling just whenever they have to send money in the country and even opening a bank account, right? So, we have like better banks now. I shouldn't name names, but I guess
Yep.
you would be able just to do so. So
Yep.
because I can see like a lot of people after this, they land in the country, they always have to ask the same question, like which banks are the best in this country? So where do they open the bank account? So you can see like the patterns like after more than 10 years, like it's always the same thing. Like you need a place to live, maybe to eat, where to actually put the parking money for the salary and all this kind of thing because you have to, and so on and so on. So okay, so your plan is really about like just to take all those needs you identified and then make sure like they can be available somewhere else. So you make things easier for them just to land in the country.
Yeah, I mean, the dream scenario is that I would be able to create something. We can find everything on one sort of like site, one source of information. We can find if you want to go there for like as an expat, where can you learn Vietnamese if you're interested in that? If you have kids, which are the best schools? How do you set up a bank account? Which are the best banks? How do you do remittance services? Where you can get an insurance? Where can I rent a car or buy a car, rent a motorbike, get a driver's license? Storage, if I'm going to move from one place to another, who can help me with that? Say that you move from Europe to Vietnam. So we're just taking everything from end to end, an end-to-end solution. And then, of course, when you're in the country, a lot of people want to travel. Which are the best locations to travel? And where can I get useful advice from other expats? We're trying to also to build like an event side where expats can meet. They're already doing that through the network, but we can do much more. So that's super interesting. And a lot of, I think, expats are also interested in, if you live in Vietnam, you're very interested in, there are so many opportunities. You will be interested in how to set up your own business. What can you do? That's another side. How does the legal framework work for setting up a business? Everything that's around rules and regulations. Where do you rent office space? Do they have WeWork? How do you cooperate with other, places in Vietnam? Because Vietnam it's a vast country. So if you're based in Ho Chi Minh City, you might not know so much about Hoi An or Hanoi. So you need to think differently because Vietnam is a big country, and if you live in Vietnam, you know that people who Ho Chi Minh City, they don't know much about Hanoi, and vice versa. So if you're going to run a business, you need local people that knows the local community, and I think that's where a lot of expats makes a mistake because they think like, yeah, if I only get to know, I've seen that many times when I work there as well. We're going to recruit someone as a sales rep or a managing director for Vietnam, and they take one guy from Hanoi, but they're actually based in Ho Chi Minh City because they didn't know much about Vietnam. And sometimes they also make this mistake that they find someone who speaks really good English, but that person might not be able to know anything about business at all, and it's a common mistake. So that's why you really need to get to know Vietnam much better. And if they don't speak very good English, you can always teach them. You can take a course, and usually Vietnamese are very smart people, so they can learn quickly. But I've seen that mistake so many times, and if you make that mistake, you could easily have talked to someone that's been in Vietnam for a few years that has that experience. The problem with many expats, they only there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So once they leave, another expat usually coming in. So that expat has to start all over. And I can see that happening everywhere, not only in Vietnam, in any country. That's why they lose a lot of knowledge and know-how. And everything in Vietnam is about connections and know-how. Boots on the ground, they call it in English.
So I think it's like a referral thing because, like, you know, if some expats have been in the Facebook group, then they can actually refer to the other new members just to come in here because so this is how they get support from the community. Quick question for you because like there's a second part to this slide, but bottom line, like over the past 13 years, like did you see like or do you have a story that really like hit you, like really that made you really feel that you created this community and it was really like just like truly helping people, like one story that really like resonate with your heart and something that can make you really feel proud about the fact that okay, this is actually a very useful group.
Yeah, no, but there've been a few really great stories where we help people. Like for example, there was one case last year when there was someone in from it's actually happened a few times, but a person overseas, she was looking for her relatives,
her roots, right?
Yeah, in Vietnam, and through the network, because it spreads quite quickly, they were able to find her relatives, yes, for expats, and she wasn't even here because she was from the US. And that's where you see, wow, it can really help. And there's been a lot of these cases with missing people as well, which is kind of funny, that through the network, they've been able to, find that particular person in a particular area of the country. So that's been, that's really like, wow, it's amazing that people can be so extremely helpful and that the community really works. A few of those things has been really extremely helpful for those people, and it's you really feel that you've done something. And then there's been a lot of these charities as well. People who like promote. Be very careful, like who we choose. But there's been a lot of engagements around charities for like underprivileged kids, in especially in remote areas of Vietnam. But they've been able to connect through the network with sort of donors and other people who could help out. A lot of pro bono work, which is really, really nice to see.
Okay, interesting. So I'm interested, like maybe this is already almost the end of the founders talk, but why do you want to lead this founders this expat in Ho Chi Minh City group right now? Because I understand like you want to really transition with a website where you're going to put all those services. Is that correct?
Yes. So I mean, the idea now in coming year is sort of like to get more partners on board that can provide great services to expats and also, I mean, to Vietnamese, but the focus is on expats. And once that has been done, where we have lots of these services. We know how it works. We know the founders of these companies. Then I think we can have something that would be really extremely useful for people from around the world when they see it's like, as I said, one source. I think that's what I really want to do. But things are changing really quickly in Vietnam, as I said. So we really need to find out what's going on all the time. That's why we have so many people trying to meet up with potential partners, trying to sort of build the network of great providers. And that's why also we're very careful of who we work with, because we get so many requests. It's like crazy, because we really want to know how they work, how they think, what kind of team they have, and what do they want to achieve. And if they have what we want, then we have something to work on. And that's why for us, it's no rush in doing things. We rather take time to deliver like high quality. But that's also my dream. If we can make this work in the coming, say, year, and we have lots of great services, we can start to promote that. And also, as I said before, we can start working with embassies around the world and promote it in countries outside of Vietnam before expats actually arrived. So even before they actually go into Vietnam, they know exactly everything. Everything is provided. And we have seen that a few times also through the network, that people actually sort of like signed a contract with apartments even before they arrived, because they were just talking to the right people, show them around, they have all the facts. And also they talk to us as well to see our opinion. But when you have all that, I think you have a very good community, and you can bring a lot of value to people going to Vietnam. And then, of course, if this brings value, it's also very helpful for Vietnam. So, I mean, working very closely later on with the businesses in Vietnam, the Vietnamese government, because they can see the value as well, because they don't have anything like this today. So that's why I think it's a win-win for all.
Okay, so that's the long-term achievement. But then if I were to say like, I'm just gonna, maybe it's time to start presenting. Here you go, it should be all good. Great. So if you had to do something for this year in 2020, like one of the big achievement or milestone or goal for expanding Ho Chi Minh City, what would that be? One thing.
Yeah. Okay, one thing.
Choose.
Tough one. No, I think that the number one thing would be to make people more aware of the website, and also to start using the services. Because we need also to get feedback on what they think is good, what works, what doesn't work. So that's the key thing, if there's only one thing.
Well, hopefully we'll make sure that people will be more aware of the website Expats in the Ho Chi Minh City, and make sure like you have also like a bunch of partners on that already, right? So cool. Well, now let's hopefully spread the word, and I guess like where just to spread the word. So good. Okay. Well, this is the end of our founders talk today. We actually spent way more than half hour. By the way, we were supposed to just cut it, but I guess
that's fine. It's very quiet here still, so
awesome. So I'd like to thank you very much, Tom, for sharing a lot about the Facebook group that you created like quite some time ago, and like share about the stories, the challenges, like what you had to endure, and also like the fantastic growth that you've had. So thank you very much, and really see you soon in, well, maybe in Europe or in Vietnam then.
Absolutely. But Lam, thank you very much for having me over for this conversation. And I mean, feel free. I mean, people in the community or even outside the community, feel free to engage with us if you have, I mean, great solutions that could help expats. Absolutely, should contact me.
I think that, and I can recommend some great services. Maybe even WisePass can help and support in the close future when I'm going to be back. And organize events in some good places. So we know that.
Looking forward to that, Lam.
All right. See you, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So.